Okay, we'd like to get started. We're starting a little late, and thank you for coming. We've had a few changes tonight, and I'll get into that in just a minute. So those who are attending for the first time, Sam, would you like to introduce yourself and your wife?
My name is Sam John, and I'm pastor at South Cross Church down on the Dewey Drive. So it's been a year and a half, a little more, and here's my wife, Annie. And you know Bill and Jenny. So we all here tonight.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
And then on the end, Shirley, this is your first time? And you said you live off Wattel, right?
Uh-huh.
It's good to have you here. Anyone else? Okay. Just to kind of go through things, you know, we are CHASEN, which takes in 3 areas. So if you're kind of always wondering which area you're in, you can just go look at our map. You'll need your glasses, otherwise you probably won't be able to see. So it's good to have you here. Our treasury report is posted on the agenda that was sent out. And where is Sean? Okay, are you ready?
We'll turn it over to the chief for my portion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you did something. Okay, and then where's our mayor? Oh, she's sitting in the back row. Okay, I'd like to ask Mayor Lopez-Taff to come up and give us kind of an update what's going on in this thing. Thank you.
All right. You know, this may dovetail well with our city manager and our chief of police here, but we had kind of a big item that we were discussing at the last. So what I do, for those of you who are new, is I come to my area because the area mirrors directly the district of residents that I'm responsible to, carrying your ideas and representing your thoughts and preferences in our community. Of course, we recognize that we work for the entire city, but my job is to make sure that I'm listening to you so that when a vote comes, I do represent the area that's voted me in. And so with that as your background, I talk about the last couple meetings, what happened, stories of note or decisions of note. And many of you probably heard in the newspaper, or if you're online any, that we had reached our labor agreement with our police department, whether they be sworn officers or staff or even unrepresented employees. And so that became a big conversation in our community that evening because there were a lot of details that could lead one to think, what are you doing? Are you representing our interests? Because we hear that you are interested in staying safe, and our safety team is our police department, and we want to honor that responsibility. And we, as you know, are a very fiscally sound city. How many of you have heard that, love that, and really appreciate that we're careful with our dollars? Okay, just like you, right? You have to be very careful with your dollars. And so we have to make decisions when we are expending dollars and asked to expend dollars in a particular way that we are aware of what you expect us to do with your dollars. And so I printed out the report if any of you are interested in reading the particulars. But in essence, we solved for what we call, and anybody here ever been in labor negotiations, part of labor unions, things like that? Okay. So many of you are aware that when you go into labor discussions, you always do a comprehensive study of not only your agency's dollars and cents and how they're expended per person, per position, etc. And please remember that we look at the organization as a whole and positions. We do not look at people because that is not what we're doing. You know, when you look at people, it tends to feel punitive, but when you're looking at positions, it's strategic, which is exactly what we're trying to do here. So when we looked at all of our comparable agencies in the region, because that is what agencies do during labor negotiations, we said, okay, this is median, so this is the middle. we want to not be above that because that's not who our community is, right? Our community is very blue collar, middle, lots of retirees, young families, and so we don't hit above the median of what that number was. And so we said, okay, how we want to solve this and still honor our commitment to our police department is to make sure we get within 5% of median. 5% of median, that was always our goal because we want to, again, honor all of our positions, we want to keep them up. As far as competitive pay is concerned, and so we did that. And so the report talks about all of the particulars of how we gave, additional funds to our police department. And so just a little background for those of you who, like me, were very naive to how government works. So the city council is in charge of policy. Think about local law. We're in charge of dictating policy, and our city manager is in charge of operations. How do you take the will of the policy and execute operationally? And so the directive was, we want to honor our police department. Let's get them their salaries up to a wage that is reasonable, and we're going to do that. And we're not going to put our city in debt. That's always one of our caveats. We are not going to indebt our city for one particular action or kick the can down the road because we want to have a ticker tape party and just give everybody what they want, right? We have to be prudent because, again, fiscal prudence is our main directive at Citrus Heights. And so we did that. So operationally, we had to make some changes. Now, you heard a lot about the changes on many outlets because those changes could be misinterpreted. As I mentioned, we talked about positional changes, not people changes. We weren't looking to eliminate people. We were looking to move around and eliminate redundancy, as many of you who held a job, sometimes positions aren't needed at that time. Or you're best served to be in a different department or unit, as it is in our police department. And so we had to do that. And while that ruffles feathers, does our service go down? Absolutely not. Does our commitment to our police department go down? Absolutely not. Did we defund the police? No. In fact, they have more money now. So I wanted to give that overview. Do you have any questions? Do you want to dispel any myths, rumors, and other things that you may have heard? I do have the particulars. Yeah.
The one question I have is that I believe that we eliminated community patrol that is not currently assigned to anybody. We're going to add those. And my question would be, I would think that they would pay for their own selves, for the tickets that they give, the best income, but I don't know. It's just
there are some particulars that I know Chief and our city manager will cover, but I will say that just to clarify, we eliminated our motor unit, and we moved those individuals, because they're officers, into our patrol unit. So, those folks that when you call 911 or you get into, a situation and you have to call our police department, they're responding to you. So that actually got more bodies, and our motor unit was eliminated, which is an enhanced program. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, we just want to make sure, in functioning in full transparency, I want to stand up here and make sure that we have the correct information, and so no one is feeling like, oh my goodness, what have we done? Yeah.
I'm just wondering if the motor unit was eliminated because I think I heard some about Citrus Heights is turning back on the cameras at traffic. Does that make sense?
So red light cameras and the motor unit are two totally different efforts.
Okay.
The red light cameras, we decided a couple meetings ago that contract was going to continue. so that there was never any stop-in service there. But one does not replace the other. Red light cameras, we are continuing the service.
Okay, what is the motor unit's prime focus?
Motor unit, so those guys are the ones who are on motorcycles, and generally, traffic,
Okay. Okay.
traffic flow. Mhm. Yeah.
Thank
If
you.
get into a traffic accident, they're
And that was
Johnny on the spot.
three officers on the motorcycles?
I believe it was 3 officers and a supervisor.
Yeah, there was 4 total officers in the traffic unit, and 3 of them were on motorcycles, so you're right on that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
These are police officers we were talking a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago. And they were like the motorcycle officers, is that the same ones? They were eliminated?
I don't know that we
Is
had,
that group?
is it
What?
that, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the
man.
police officers we have regularly that are part of our meeting are part of our POP team. And so that's,
So you mean those motorcycle cops went to they
traffic.
became something else?
Yes, they
They're in cars now?
moved into the traffic unit. No, they're still our same cops. Those
Oh,
are our
I
same
just don't
cops.
understand that.
They just moved positions. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like when you move from customer service to accounting.
Exactly.
Right. It's a different
Exactly. You
department.
didn't lose your job, you just
Right.
moved over.
It's like a lateral thing.
Yeah.
Well, we can let them kind of get.
Yeah, we can let them elaborate on their piece because I know you're more interested in that. But thank you. Thank you for giving me your time.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's been a change. Our agenda came out and we had our flyer. We were gonna have Hal, which is the Police Activities Lead, doing a presentation tonight. And I was notified by Commander Frey that someone above him kind of bumped him out of that opportunity. So they will be coming at a later date. And you can explain this to your sister-in-law, okay? All right, but we're glad to have them here, and they're going to be able to go into a lot more detail about the changes that have taken place, so it's good to have you guys here, and thank you.
Thank you, Bill, and maybe I'll kind of get us started off. Mayor, you did a great job explaining the changes, and go, wow, pretty comprehensive there, and it's great to have someone that really reads the staff reports, understands it, does the homework, and clearly understands the actions that were taken and the why behind it. So, I was here last month, I think, and I think it was probably like 45 minutes, so I promise not to go that long this time. And the chief is here with me, and so we wanted to just come in and speak to the reorganization efforts that happened at the last council meeting. That staff report was out in advance of the council meeting, kind of the why behind it. As the mayor said, periodically we do a compensation survey for our organization to make sure that we're able to stay competitive in the marketplace and be able to, one, retain our employees that deliver on behalf of the residents and businesses every day, and then also be able to recruit new hires that we want to have come into our organization. And as the mayor mentioned, there's comparable agencies within our region we look at. It's really those that we're in competition with for employees. We don't look at folks where you're going to have to do some crazy commute. We basically go Woodland, Davis, Rancho Cordova, Elk Grove, Sacramento, Sac County, Roseville, Rockland, Folsom, kind of who you would expect. Sacramento County, I think I mentioned that. So those are your comparable agencies, and you look at the total compensation, and you kind of see where you're at. And as we got this one back, we hadn't done labor agreements for a few years. The last one was in 2023, and so we got this one back, and yeah, clearly we had some work to do. When I was here last month, I went deep into our budget. I talked about all of our revenues that were highly sales tax dependent, that we have property tax, but it's not at a very high level relative to our overall budget because we're a newer incorporated city where we have a different tax agreements than say older cities do, where you have a larger take on the taxes. We're grateful to have that, but the other thing that I talked about last time is we have had to make adjustments on our sales tax revenues year over year because our forecasts weren't kind of keeping up, where we had to take $300,000 down one year, $300,000 the next year, so we're down $600,000. People love living here, so our property tax is flat, so it's not being reassessed as rapidly as some other projections might think. So we have to pay attention to our revenues. Those are real numbers, and when we have escalating costs, we have to be realistic about what we can afford. Some cities get themselves in trouble by expanding government beyond what their revenues can support, and that's how you find yourself into a structural deficit. There's plenty of examples in our region that you read about in the paper where they're having to solve for these massive structural deficits. And the sad part is oftentimes they're solving for them like a year at a time, and they continue to be in this perpetual problem. So when we looked at this challenge that was in front of us, we had to solve a really tough equation. Making sure that we're dealing with relatively flat revenues, escalating costs, and ensuring that we have a reserve that meets the minimum council policies. And also, you don't want to be right at the minimum. We have a target of 25%. That's 90 days cash on hand to cash flow the entire organization, and you have revenues that come in throughout the year that aren't always consistent. So you want to have a reserve to get you through those days. And then, God forbid you have a recession, they do show up sometimes. Those aren't something you can predict in your model. So if you're right at your minimum, you're in trouble. In order to make sure we've got an organization that we can sustain core service delivery, and when I say core service delivery, it's just that. What are the main foundations and the fundamentals of serving your organization through core services? As the mayor was talking about, patrol. That's someone that's going to respond to 911 calls. That's an example. So in any case, we looked hard at our core services and said, okay, what can we do to ensure that we're able to retain and recruit our employees to deliver on this core service? How can we make sure we're also maintaining the council priorities, which are directly informed from the residents, on making sure the roadways are continuing to be addressed? There's been a lot of effort on that. So how do you balance all those priorities and make sure that we're hitting on that? So we looked at that. We worked as an executive team. The chief and I worked closely together after that comp study came in to come up with some solutions. And we had to look at what's a core service and what's an enhanced service. And we have a number of enhanced services, throughout the police department. The chief will speak to some of those here in a moment. But we had to make some tough decisions. And in order to make sure that we're going to stay fiscally solvent, fiscally prudent, there had to be some cuts that had to be made. Local government, as I spoke to last time, it's about people serving people. Most of the budget is employees. Sure, we have keeping the lights on, maintaining City Hall, maintaining facilities, but that is a smaller part of the budget. So most of your budget is people. And when we've done a very efficient operation over the course of the last 4 years. We've run things on actuals. We have to justify every new expenditure. It's not just pad last year's budget. And so that's something that we've taken to heart as a team. We've also eliminated a number of positions along the way that were vacant. We've reclassed other positions to lower level, throughout the entire organization. So it's already lean. This time we had to look and say, okay, how can we reorganize? How can we be more efficient? And we did that. What it resulted in is we did have 3 mid-level management positions that we did do a layoff on, and we reorganized the duties that those positions had that were reporting to them to other managers. For instance, our records unit and also our code enforcement units are now reporting directly to the police lieutenants. And then we removed the animal services division and brought that over to general services department. And that is where it lived previously. And we have some history with animal services coming out of general services, and they're actually doing the work on the Auburn Boulevard facility also to have some continuity there, because they're doing the facility, and they also have some support staff that can help the animal services division be successful. So that was a tough decision. We had to see where we could have some efficiencies with some of our other management that takes on some additional duties. In addition to that, the traffic unit was reassigned back into patrol. We do have a lot of newer officers with these very experienced veteran officers that do have some excellent traffic education and professional reps could also help with some of our newer officers learning that part of their duties. And Chief will kind of elaborate too on how we're able to maintain service levels there. But yeah, that was a tough decision. So the motorcycle unit was reassigned, and that is an enhanced service though. When we talk about core services and we talk about enhanced services, a traffic unit is an enhanced service. We love the traffic unit. I know the council loves the traffic unit too. If the traffic unit could be afforded based on the revenue projections we have, we'd love to have it. But when we have to look at reality of what revenues can support, the expenditures, you have to make tough decisions, and that is an example of an enhanced service that we had to make a sacrifice in order to maintain the core services. So again, some really tough decisions, but in order to make sure that we're retaining and recruiting our employees, we had to develop some strategies to do that. We have to make sure that we're fiscally solid, and we have to maintain a reserve. And I could never make a recommendation to the city council, our executive team could never make a recommendation to the city council that, yeah, let's just do this because we want to right now, and we'll figure it out later. We'll put ourselves in a structural deficit knowingly in a couple of years, but we'll figure it out later. If there's no new revenue source on the horizon, you can't bet on a speculative revenue when you're making decisions like this. So that's where you have to look at some tough decisions and make sure that you're being fiscally responsible so we're not putting the community in jeopardy. Because if you know that you've got a problem, especially a fiscal problem, and if you don't deal with it right up front, that problem snowballs year over year, and then you are going a lot deeper on that problem that you know is in front of you. So when we see a problem, you don't run from it, you have to deal with it, you have to face the problem. And so we wanted to come here and explain kind of the why behind the reorganization, to make sure that the record's straight on what it is and what it's not. As the mayor said, police aren't being defunded. It's not a falling away from the commitment to public safety in the community. No, it's making sure that we're able to solidify our public safety. We can't become a training ground for other agencies because we're not able to keep up in the marketplace. So some hard decisions had to be made, and Chief, I'd love to have you speak to what it means operationally, and then expand on core service, enhanced services. The other enhanced services are still there, consistent with the priorities we hear from the community, and maybe some of the things about what happens if there's an accident.
Okay. Do you want to touch on attrition?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. And the other, so I spoke to some of the positions. We did also have, so there was a total of 3 mid-level non-sworn manager positions. We also had 4 officer positions from the traffic unit. And then in addition to that, there was a sergeant from the traffic unit that's reassigned to patrol. And then, so what we're doing there too is part of the future forecast from a budgeting standpoint. We are not going to, when a sergeant position becomes available, so that sergeant is going back to support patrol. But when we have a sergeant position that either retires or is vacant by other means, we won't be rehiring that position. Similar to also with one lieutenant position. When we have a lieutenant position that comes vacant, we're not going to rehire that position. So in total, will be 9 positions that will be removed from our full-time employee count with these measures that we took through this reorganization effort that we've done. So those are removed from the budget, so they're not going to hit the future employee count load. And then at such time, if there's additional revenues and there's some other service enhancements the city council is hearing that the community wants to see, we could explore bringing some back. But at this time, we're removing all 9 of those positions from our full-time employee count. So that's about 4% of our overall employees that are part of this action. But like you say, 6 of those were either reassigned or will be vacated through attrition of the 9.
Thank you, sir. Whenever there's tough decisions to be made, and all of you have to make tough decisions in your life, if you're parents or business owners or just a normal human being, right? Whenever tough decisions are made, I would just caution you to go to the source and find good information, because I'll tell you right now, one of the best things that this NA has going for it, in my own opinion, is that you have a mayor sitting right here who does bring the information here to you. This group in general, our NA model, is wonderful because you have representatives of the city, of government here, no matter if it's in this area or if you live in another area, where you can confirm information or the like. If you ever want to just email me directly, it's policechief@citrusheights.net, and I'll get back to you too. The caution I would say is, don't just believe what anybody posts on Facebook. There's a lot of misinformation that's going on Facebook right now that is just patently not true. Our mayor and our council, along with our city executives, the city manager, myself, from the moment that there was a need identified for the budget and the structural deficit that could occur, we've been in constant communication, reviewing all different methods of how we could solve for this issue. Making these tough decisions, we would love to have as many enhancements as we could possibly have in our community, but we have to be real and live in the reality of the budget that we know that we have. If we don't do that, there will be no city and consequently no police department to be able to be there. So while nobody is going to celebrate tough choices, that's the world that we live in. If your checking account only has so much money, you can only buy so many groceries, right? You'd like the enhanced filet, but sometimes it's hamburger helper night, and that doesn't work that same way, right? So a couple other items that are out there. I think we had a question about our motor unit. I will tell you, it has never been the focus of the police department to make money through law enforcement. Never been the focus. Our focus is safety. Our motor unit, experts in traffic safety, in mitigating collisions and investigating collisions when they happen, all the way up to fatalities. But they've never been a revenue generating topic to look at. Do tickets cost a lot of money? Of course they do. The share Citrus Heights receives from the fines that you pay to the court is about this much of that much. The whole citation revenue that comes in across the motor unit and all of our patrol officers and things like that would not even pay for one motor officer, one motorcycle, and especially if they do the fancy boots, for sure, right? And I'll tell you, I'm fine with that because it's never been about revenue generating. So that's another misinformation. People a lot of times think, oh, the motorcycle folks are just there trying to do revenue. No, they're trying to make you safe. As we are transitioning from having that enhancement, you still have a very robust patrol unit out there. Our patrol officers, and now they've been enhanced with some additional traffic experts, do traffic enforcement as part of their daily duties. Is it an enhancement to have a motor unit? Absolutely, because I can have a team focused just on that. I can put them in an area whenever we need to and figure that out. Our patrol officers can do traffic enforcement, and they do traffic enforcement. In fact, our patrol division has increased by 8 to 9% year over year just this year, focusing on what they could do to help out with traffic enforcement. It's not going to be the same. It's not a one-for-one because they still have to handle, our primary responsibility is 911. You call for help, they're going to go. They have calls for service that they have to get to, but in their free time when they're proactive, they're definitely going to still be looking for speeders. They're going to be looking for equipment violations. They're going to go to the hot spots that we're aware of for traffic collisions, try to make their presence known. They may not be as effective as an enhanced unit, but they're still committed to crime and traffic safety out there in the city. Along with that, as the city manager spoke to, not having an enhanced traffic unit, okay, that's one thing. But this city is not just bare bones. We don't just have patrol. You guys have seen our POP unit come through. Our lovely POP detectives that, along with our GSD unit, had a very pivotal role in making the town more beautiful for the last few years, right? They've won major awards with going out there, getting services for our unhoused, but also holding them accountable, getting them to clean up their stuff, make the city better. We have a specialty unit called the Impact Team. That Impact Team looks for anybody who has caused crimes and absconded. They will chase them down and figure that out. Narcotics violations, those dealing drugs to our kids and our loved ones, they're out there trying to crush that on our behalf. We have a robust detective unit out there trying to do all the whodunits, right? And even though we're in a season where we're talking about some changes, this city has always been focused on service delivery to our community and finding better ways to make sure that we are maximizing every tax dollar we can for the best outcome that we can have. So while we have some transitions here, we still are looking at different technologies. Just this week, we'll be rolling out a brand new online reporting system. If you guys have ever done an online report with us, it was a nice opportunity so that you don't have to wait for an officer to come to your house. You can go online and fill out the report. The downside with that, it was an older system and you kind of had to know what you wanted to report to be able to function. We've obtained a new AI generated reporting system that all you have to do is tell it, this is what happened to me. It'll figure out what the crime is, much like a responding officer would. Do the report for you so you don't have to worry about making mistakes or whatever, and then send that forward. We'll be launching that pretty shortly. Not only is that a great tool, I think, for our public, because you have an issue with somebody stealing something from your car, you need a report for your insurance, but you also want to make sure that you get that stuff back, or to the extent possible. But waiting around for an officer might not be convenient for you. Being able to jump right on the computer, make your report, you have your number for your insurance, we immediately get the information about your stolen property, we can put it into the system. If it's serialized, we'll work on enhancements like that. We've been with the retail theft grant that we've obtained. We've been exercising a number of different technology innovations to be a force multiplier for our patrol teams out there to immediately identify and detect criminal cars that are out there, criminal behavior. When something occurs, be able to track those suspects down and take them into custody. So we're going to continue that passion. And I'll be honest, all resources are always finite. This city uses finite resources to the max, and we're going to continue to do that through innovation and our community policing model. So please, if you guys need anything, traffic related, crime related, quality of life concerns, let us know. Keep those calls coming. We'll keep responding. We'll do that the very best that we can to make sure that we continue to improve safety and quality of life in the town. So, missed something?
Covered it well. What about if there was a major accident or
I'm
fatality?
sorry, yes.
That would be maybe one question.
So somebody asked about the functionality of the traffic unit in general. So the traffic team is our primary traffic enforcement, sure, right? Everybody knows if a guy gets off a motorcycle behind you, you're probably getting a ticket. Okay, so that's one. But also they're experts in traffic calming measures, working with our partners over General Services to engineer the roadways to make them a little better. But then also, if there is a major traffic collision, or up to including a fatality, they have extra training to be able to reconstruct that entire accident scene so that we can secure convictions on folks who are negligent homicide, operating their vehicle as a negligent homicide, or to prove what actually happened. If it's a whodunit kind of an issue, we're not sure exactly what happened, they can actually go out there and based on the skid marks on the ground, see how fast the car was going when it started, what else happened with this whole vehicle, and they can reconstruct the whole event, which is amazing. That capacity we want to retain because it's helpful for our folks. So while our traffic experts are going back into the patrol division, they still have all this great training. So what we're going to do to continue to maximize on that training is we're developing what we call a major accident investigation team. And it's going to operate in a collateral function much like our SWAT team. I don't know if our SWAT folks have come to talk to you guys in recent months, but the way our SWAT team operates, we have a number of highly trained police officers that are familiar with SWAT incidents and SWAT tactics. But they work in detectives, they work in impact, they work in POP, they work in patrol. They do daily duties all the time because thankfully we're not a city that needs a SWAT team every single day. And we're gonna try to continue to be that city for sure. But when something happens where a higher level of expertise is needed, a call goes out, they come from wherever they are, they assemble, they take care of the problem. We're gonna do the same thing with our major accident investigation team. They might be working patrol, they might be off that day or whatever, but when a major fatality or a major incident happens that needs their skill set, call will go out, they'll come in, they'll do that call anyway, much like the SWAT team will. So again, not exactly the same that it was before, but it's going to maintain the core patrol service and it's going to maintain our major accident investigation capability. So like the city manager spoke to, when we're looking at the core service, the one thing that did not happen at all in this reorganization is not a single patrol resource was impacted. And in fact, if you account for the fact that our motor officers are all senior officers, them going back to patrol actually has a value add to helping some of the junior officers get trained up in items like DUI and traffic enforcement and things like that. So again, tough choices, but we're used to it. This whole town is used to it. We have a great town, we're going to roll up our sleeves and make sure we can get out there and do the very best. And we're going to continue to do that for you. Any questions for myself or the city manager? Yes, sir.
Two things come to mind. One thing is, the mayor mentioned you look at the position, not the person.
Uh-huh.
So you can imagine possibly it impacts the personal and the professional life of the traffic officers, for example. And so, but I understand, you know, what you're saying really makes a lot of sense. And then the other thing is you mentioned these positions being vacated will not be reassigned. They will not be refilled. And so that is sort of, in a way, revenue on the horizon that you mentioned.
Well, it's not a revenue on the horizon, it's a reduction in expenditures. So that's when those positions are not refilled, because we can't, candidly, with the revenues we have forecasted, we can't accomplish all things. We can't stay fiscally solvent if we continue to say, okay, we're gonna bring it up to the compensation targets, we're gonna keep all these positions filled. We find ourselves in structural deficit, and that's not something that is a good practice to be in, and that's certainly something I would never recommend.
But that you didn't need those positions to begin with then?
I'm not saying that. Well, we just went ahead and
You said 9 positions going to be?
9 total positions.
And so that they were, even though there's growth during that period from when those positions were first developed, and then when they are not going to be vacated, there's growth, but then that means that they were like unnecessary all that time?
You know, when we're talking about growth, as a city, there hasn't been a lot of growth. We've been at the relatively similar population.
So everything was stagnant?
When you look at revenues.
You never needed those to begin with?
No, that's not accurate, sir. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, when you look at challenging problems to solve, you have to look at your organization and say, what can we do to solve the problem? What you heard about is a enhanced service cut. That happened as part of this action. So that's a service that was reassigned to a different, so when we talk about the bodies, so in patrol, there were vacancies in the patrol unit for those officers to go into. So we had positions we would have otherwise recruited for to fill those in from new hires. Instead, we took those positions that were in other duties and reassigned them to patrol. And then we eliminated the vacancies that are now created in that traffic unit. So that is an elimination of the motor unit, the traffic unit, but it's by taking other vacancies and filling those, and then those are newly created vacancies that get swept from the employee account. When it comes to the positions that, the other positions I spoke to, no one said there's not a need. Believe me, in a lot of organizations, there's a lot more staff to deliver the same levels of service. We have a very lean operation. Did we lean it out a little bit more? You bet we did. Is that a challenge to accomplish? Of course it is. But we have to look hard at what can we do in times like this to ensure that we're able to maintain core service delivery with the resources we have in what we see on the horizon. So as I said kind of at the outset, and certainly at the last meeting that I was here, we run a lean operation. We've, over the last 4 years, continued to lean things out. And then and we also look very hard at the return on investment. What are we getting out of these positions? How are they meeting the council priorities? If we're going to do a position, is it maybe a revenue offset with that? Is there some sort of position where we're maybe paying a consultant to do work where we could bring that in-house and we know that we're going to do it better and it could bring in additional revenue? So those are the kind of things that we look at. No one's saying that those positions weren't helpful or important. They were, but we have to be realistic about what we can do as an organization.
So it's basically just restructuring, just like a large corporation would restructure their.
Right.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, it's not uncommon to have a restructure.
Correct.
When you have to look at your revenues and your expenditures, and local government's no different.
Speaking of revenue, for your why, is any of the why you've had to do all this restructuring due to a percentage of revenue lost by vacant commercial property?
From a vacant commercial property standpoint, we've had a lot of vacancies filled over the course of several years. Like a lot of our big boxes have filled up. Of course, there's a lot of focus on the mall. We talked about that last time, and we have a major economic development project that the council has been supportive of, and I'm grateful that we actually have something cooking out there. Just on Friday, the long negotiated purchase agreement between Talon Capital Partners and the Metal Shop, who's the arena proponent, the Sunrise Sports Complex, that was signed on Friday.
Great.
So that's great news, and that was a long negotiation to get there. I mean, certainly there was the Economic Development Participation Agreement, there was a term sheet, but to solve all the complexities around a major project like that takes time, and they've got the purchase agreement signed. That's a big win. So that's the first step. And without that type of a catalyst project at Sunrise, it's not, there's nothing else that's going to really compel redevelopment. You need a catalyst out there to make things happen. That serves as that. It's on 14 and 100 acres. That's going to be a major activity generator. That's going to bring that site to a regional destination again. And then it allows for the balance of the 86 acres to develop with other uses that would hopefully be revenue generating. Not all of them will be revenue generating, but
Restaurants.
at the end of the day, the projection out there is about $700,000 to $1 million a year at build out. That's significant. Is it significant enough to solve the challenges that we just talked about? No. Will it help contribute to those? Certainly. There's other economic development activity that we have here going on in the city as well. I know there was an article recently about the e-bike ATV warehouse business that's coming into the city. That's an excellent business. I'm very excited about them. And we're working closely with them to address some of the security challenges that they had recently with their vacant building. But we've got our team fully committed to assisting them, getting them open successfully. And so we've got a lot of activity around there. But we get 1 cent on the dollar from a sales tax perspective. We get 8.4 cents on the dollar from a property tax standpoint. And so we have to be realistic about what economic development opportunities are going to generate or not. So Sunrise tomorrow is great. Yeah. You know, the reassessment too from a property tax standpoint, when we have new construction out there, that's reassessed at a higher value. So those are all good things. And so those are all in the works.
Okay, I don't know if Mayor Rodriguez knows the answer, sorry, one more. Do you know if we got, so drones were released on the 4th of July, right? For fines of illegal fireworks? Mm-hmm. Have we gotten any of that? I don't know, maybe you can tell me from last year.
We're compiling that data. We've been a little busy on other items right this second, but we did, what we have seen though, this last 4th of July, so the 4th of July prior to that, was when we really came out strong with those drones.
Yeah.
We've always tried to come out strong with education, but education with a consequence worked out pretty well last year. What we saw this year, although if you live here, you still hear the fireworks. But what we saw this year was a dramatic decline in our calls for service. We did have drones up. We did make some citations. It was a lot fewer than we had last time, and I actually see that as a positive. Yeah. I think we're making some improvements. We'll have an actual report with the details to council in August. I believe, yeah, next in August. So we'll have the hard numbers then, because there's been some questions about that. But I will say, while we're still hearing fireworks, there was a significant decline. And actually, some neighborhoods reported that above their own. Hey, it sounded pretty good.
Yeah, it's probably because they realized the fines.
Hope so. We're not in the business of making money off these fines. I want you to stop doing it.
Right.
Hold your hand, don't burn down the house. That's what we're looking for.
I'll share some info on that. I worked the 3rd of July for the last several years. I didn't work the 4th, I did work the 3rd. And the guys are out there working and actually got bored because they didn't see, because there was nothing really going on in that area. So that the feedback from the ground backs up what that's saying. It was almost uneventful. There was a few, but it was nothing like yours.
On the 3rd for sure. On the 4th, they're still going up, but not nearly in the same concentration as we saw in years prior.
I just hope we collected 75% of the fines we put out there this year and last year.
We do our best, but we want compliance more. So I think we have a question back here from Mr. Van Dusen.
Sure, I'll be quiet.
First of all, I'm under the impression that we eliminated the motor unit during COVID and brought it back as an enhancement. If that's not correct, please address that. But my primary question is for special events like the 4th of July fireworks thing for the city and for the parade over the Halloween parade and stuff. Do you bring motor units back for those special occasions?
No, we won't have that ability. We do talk about some of the ways that we contract out. So we do have a traffic control contractor that has provided assistance with us. We still have our expertise with our lieutenants and some of those other officers too who could contribute to the event planning team, but the motorcycles won't be there. So they'll either gonna go old school on feet or they'll be out there in cars.
How about horses? Sorry.
Don't have horses either.
Did we eliminate the motor unit during COVID?
Oh, I'm sorry. So that was, we did actually collapse a number of specialties post-COVID. That had more to do with the staffing shortage at that time. And as staffing came back, we reinstituted those items like POP and traffic, impact. They all did get dramatically downsized during that time. And in fact, our traffic unit hadn't actually got back up to full complement at that point yet, but we had been bringing those back as staffing allowed. But that was the change during COVID. And that one had more to do with a temporary hold while we could recruit and get new folks in. This is different than that because those positions won't exist.
Thank you.
I want to also recognize, I mean, last year was our lowest crime rate that we've had since incorporation.
Yep.
You know, and so as far as having an understanding of where resources are most needed in order to keep crime at bay, Chief has a good handle on that with his team to say, okay, where are those resources needed? I mean, we've talked a lot about beautification in this community, dealing with people that are languishing on the streets. That was a real problem. And, you know, the impact team, you know, getting narcotics out of the system where people are preying, you know, on people that are down on their luck. A lot of success on that. You're not seeing that like you are. The community's cleaner. So I'd say that a lot of those real strategic moves that the council supported all the way through policies, I mean, it's really these policies that the council's adopted over the course of several years that we've implemented. The mayor spoke to the different roles. They handed it to us to implement, and we've had a lot of success. I mean, we're a metrics-focused team. There are some great scores that are put up right now, and we're going to continue to keep that focus.
Thank you.
What are you looking for as far as your department for retirement, say, in the next 5 years?
We always have a churn in retirement, so we do have about half a dozen folks that are probably looking to retire in the next year or so. And that's, we usually get between 3 and 6 a year that are aging out and retiring. If any of you had the opportunity to attend our 20th anniversary, you got to see the folks stand that have literally been here since day one in 2006. Time marches on, and the only thing worse than getting older is the alternative. And we do want to see them successfully walk out with their heads up high and does happen.
So as they retire, then you're going to be hiring to replace or trying to?
All the spots except the ones that have been changed to the plan. Yeah, for now.
And we hope that, you know, when you look at something, like I said, when you see a problem and you address it right when you know about it and you do the hard work then, that's a way of you try to make sure you're not doing that every year. And so I think with the hard work we did, or worse. And so by looking at this and taking it serious now and being realistic, the hope is we won't have to face something like this again. But if you don't take it serious, or you say, okay, we'll kick the can down the road, the mayor's talking about kicking the can down the road, you're going to break your foot off. And we're not interested in that. You know, we can't predict what a recession could do. You know, there's always the unpredictable. But based on reasonable assumptions, with the moves that were made, you know, the idea is that we're not having to revisit something like this for some time. And maybe some of these economic development opportunities we were talking about help bolster the revenues. That's a major focus too. And we know that we're hard at work on that.
Which, to that point, stand local.
Any other questions for us?
But you do get the sales tax off Amazon, right?
Well, that's a whole complicated. I will say, the best thing to do is spend local. There's a big effort, and it may end up being a proposition to kind of realign how distribution centers those revenues are spread. If we ended up, if that went forward, we'd probably receive about 4% more than we receive now, which would be a win on those revenues. 4% of those revenues. And some jurisdictions might gain as much as 10, others are losers. Like if you have a main distribution center and you've invested heavily in distribution centers, well, you're a loser in that scenario. But it's a way of recognizing there's a problem with fairness on that, and it may end up on the ballot. And believe me, if it does, we'll make sure the community is well educated on what it could mean for citrus heights.
All right.
Anything else? Thanks for allowing us to be here tonight, and we just wanted to make sure that you heard from us about the recent changes.
A couple of months ago, we had Mike Haslett come in and talk about AI. And so I agree with you when you sit there and say, know what your source is. So be careful of what you read and do some investigating on it. Thank you for coming in and kind of just clarifying, where the city is and so far and how it's affecting the police department. So thank you. And thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. All right. We have some upcoming events and activities coming up. The big one will be August 4th, and that's National Night Out. And where is it going to be held? Right here. So I encourage you to come out. For those who are a little older, you can invite kids, grandkids. We are going to have a jump house out here. We're going to be serving hot dogs. Republic is kicking in to help provide some of the goods. Is it Grocery Outlet? Yeah, Grocery Outlet's going to come in here with a spinning wheel so you can win prizes from Grocery Outlet. So anyway, it's going to be a great event, free food. We're going to have all the sugar you need, so that'll be out there too. But it's going to be a fun event, and this year we'll be having the Citrus Heights Marching Band, which they make a difference. They really do. They really add to the activity.
Don't forget the ice cream.
Oh, and Leatherby's is kicking it again. So, that scoop deal, everybody's complaining because they're not getting Leatherby's. I want you to know, Mayor. So, maybe that's because we're taking 4 tubs of it. Anyway.
That's okay, let's keep it local.
Volunteers? Yeah, we'll be putting out an email this week if you'd like to help in setting up for the activity and also taking down. So we'll be having tables in here and using the courtyard. But it's going to be good. It's going to be a little different this year. Janie's getting, what is it?
Games.
Huh?
Games. Games.
Yeah, but what's the store?
Galaxy.
Galaxy's going to be coming in and demonstrating games. So they're just right over by, yeah, just over in the Leatherby's parking lot over there. So I'm sure the teenagers will like that, because I'm sure they're going to be more like video games. So it'll be good. So we're going to have different groups coming in. It's going to be a great night. It's not going to cost you anything. The fire truck will be parked right out here in front. If you want to bring kids from your congregation, we don't care if they're in our area or from, just invite them, have them come in. It's a great activity and a great event. The 15th, we're hoping to host a candidates night forum to introduce. And what day should we know who's actually put their hat there?
August 8th.
August 8th. And so then we'll be able to go out and do invites. I'm going to probably reach out too for our San Juan board supervisor, our board members, and see if they want to get involved like we did 4 years ago. I don't think we put you on the hot seat, did we, last year? About 4 years ago? It wasn't too bad.
No, you have to ask tough questions.
Yeah. And so we're going to also ask you, if you have questions, to let us know. And then if there's something that you feel that should be asked, that's what we want to know. So we'll be putting that out there too, letting you have an opportunity to respond. But it should be a great evening. And we wanted to do it in September because of the mail-in ballots, so you could have the information that you need. And then October 15th, the Water District wants to come in, and with them will also be Republic Services. November 17th will probably be the Pell presentation, and I've already determined that. December, we have what is called the Giving Tree Project. We work with the local school here at Woodside, It's been very successful over the years. Last year we had, what, 17? 17 kids that we sponsored, and plus we had an elderly family, or couple, that we also helped out. So we're out there, you know, we're trying to help the community involved, and so that's what we have going. And then the big part of the evening is the Leatherby ice cream. Let's see who's the lucky winner tonight. I don't know, Keith, do I? 423.
Peter.
Peter? What kind of winner are we? Okay. Well, thank you for coming.